Emily Parker never thought she would set foot inside a courtroom for something so personal, so humiliating. She grew up in a small town in Ohio, raised on values of loyalty, love, and the belief that once you found the right partner, you built a life together through thick and thin. At 32, she thought she had it all. She was married to Daniel Parker, a successful corporate consultant with charm, ambition, and the kind of presence that drew people to him. They had been married for 6 years, and after years of trying, Emily was finally pregnant. The news of her pregnancy had filled her with joy so bright it erased every hardship she'd endured before. She decorated the nursery with pastel shades, folded tiny baby clothes with care, and every night lay in bed whispering to her unborn child, promising a world full of love and safety. For her, this baby wasn't just a child, it was the dream she had prayed for, the future she believed she and Daniel had built together. But life has a way of pulling the ground from beneath even the steadiest feet. Daniel, despite his loving smile and tender words, carried secrets. He thrived on admiration, not just at work, but everywhere he went. His need for validation made him reckless, and in his weakness, he let another woman into his life. Vanessa Monroe. Vanessa was everything Emily wasn't, at least on the surface. Bold, glamorous, and unapologetic. She was in her late 20s, with platinum blonde hair curled into waves and a wardrobe that screamed for attention. Where Emily was warm and grounded, Vanessa was fiery and unpredictable. She met Daniel during a business event, and what started as flirtation spiraled into an affair that Daniel convinced himself he could keep hidden. Emily noticed the small signs, the late nights, the sudden trips, the distant look in Daniel's eyes. At first, she ignored them. She told herself stress from work was wearing him down, that pregnancy hormones were making her paranoid. But then came the unmistakable evidence: a lipstick stain on his shirt, a perfume scent that wasn't hers, and finally, photographs sent anonymously to her phone, pictures of Daniel and Vanessa together, laughing, embracing, kissing. Emily's world shattered. She confronted Daniel, and for the first time, the man who always had a quick excuse or charming smile broke down. He admitted the affair, begged her forgiveness, swore it meant nothing compared to her. Emily wanted to believe him, wanted to save their family, especially for the baby. But the wound was deep, and before it could heal, Vanessa struck again. Vanessa wasn't content with being the other woman. She wanted more. She wanted Daniel all to herself. She flaunted their affair openly, sending Emily cruel messages. And then came the most vicious blow. Vanessa claimed that Emily's unborn child wasn't Daniel's at all. She whispered it to colleagues, spread it among friends, and even confronted Emily in person outside her doctor's office. "Sweetheart," Vanessa said with a smirk that cut like glass, "you're living a lie. That baby you're so proud of? It's not even his. Everyone's going to know soon enough." Emily stood frozen, her hand instinctively clutching her belly, as if shielding her baby from the venom in those words. She had never felt so humiliated, so cornered. The rumors grew louder, and eventually, legal action became inevitable. A paternity test was ordered to silence the lies once and for all. That's how Emily, swollen with pregnancy, exhausted from betrayal and trembling with fear, found herself in court. A place she never imagined she would be. The courtroom was grand, its wooden benches filled with spectators whispering behind their hands. At the center sat Emily, her white maternity dress stretched across her belly, her face pale but her eyes determined. She had always pictured herself glowing in this stage of pregnancy, not sitting under fluorescent lights in a courtroom where strangers debated her dignity. Daniel sat beside her, in a navy blue suit, his face a mask of guilt. He tried to comfort her, but every touch felt like salt on an open wound. He had caused this. His weakness, his betrayal had dragged her into this nightmare. Across the room, Vanessa made her entrance like it was a stage play. A blazing red dress hugged her figure, her lips painted the same shade, her platinum hair perfectly styled. She walked with the confidence of a woman who believed she had already won. Her arms crossed, she stared at Emily with a smile that screamed superiority. The trial began. Emily's lawyer argued fiercely, insisting that the paternity test would prove the truth. Vanessa's side scoffed, painting Emily as desperate, clinging to a man who no longer wanted her, carrying a child whose paternity was in question. Emily sat silently, each word slicing deeper. As the hours dragged on, Emily's body felt heavier. The stress, the whispers, the judgmental eyes of strangers. It was too much. She had never thought she'd be here, never imagined that instead of celebrating her pregnancy, she'd be fighting in court to prove her child's legitimacy. Finally, the moment came. The DNA test results were delivered to the judge, a stern man with gray hair and sharp eyes. The room fell silent. Vanessa leaned forward, her smirk widening, convinced this was her victory. Emily closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer. But before the judge could speak, Emily's strength gave way. Her vision blurred, her breath grew shallow, and she collapsed into her chair, unconscious. Gasps erupted through the courtroom. Daniel rushed to her side, panic flooding his face, while Vanessa remained standing, her smirk intact, as if Emily's collapse was proof of her defeat. The judge cleared his throat, raising the envelope. The room stilled. "These are the results of the paternity test," he announced. "According to the findings, the unborn child belongs to Mr. Daniel Parker and his wife, Emily Parker." The words rang out like thunder. Vanessa's smirk shattered instantly, her face flushing red with disbelief. She shook her head, muttering, "No, no, that's not possible." The judge silenced her with a glare. "The results are final, and let me remind you, lies and manipulation may flourish for a time, but in this court, only truth prevails." Emily stirred, slowly regaining consciousness. The first thing she heard was the judge's words, and tears filled her eyes. Her baby, her precious baby, was safe from the lies. She looked at Daniel, who held her trembling hand, his face streaked with guilt. But Emily's eyes said everything. Forgiveness would not come easily, if at all. Vanessa, once so bold and red, stood frozen. Her arrogance, her confidence, her smug smile, gone in an instant. She turned on her heel and stormed out of the courtroom, her heels clacking like echoes of her pride shattering behind her. Emily, though exhausted and broken, stood with quiet dignity. She had never imagined being dragged into court. Never thought she'd have to fight so fiercely for her child's name and her own honor. But she had survived. She had faced betrayal, humiliation, and cruelty. And in the end, the truth had set her free. As she left the courtroom, whispers followed her. Some pitied her, others admired her. But one thing was certain. She was no longer just a victim. She was a mother who had fought for her child, and she had won. Daniel walked beside her, his head bowed in shame, knowing he had almost lost everything that truly mattered. Emily didn't need words to tell him the road ahead would not be easy. Trust, once broken, could take a lifetime to rebuild. And somewhere outside, Vanessa sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel with trembling hands, her face twisted in rage. The woman who once thought she held all the power was now nothing more than a footnote in a story where truth had triumphed. For Emily, it wasn't just about proving paternity. It was about reclaiming her dignity, her strength, and the future she thought she had lost. And as she placed her hand on her belly that night, whispering to her unborn child, she knew one thing for certain. Lies may wound, betrayal may scar, but love and truth always endure.